It's the scariest time of the year. And today, I'm here with Zach, and we're going to uncover the most haunting RFIs. So grab your flashlight and let's get into it.
Woo!
Welcome to What the RFI. I'm Matt Brennan, and this is the podcast all about CA. Not only it is Halloween today, but I am joined by a very special guest, Zach. And Zach, you've got quite a history when it comes to RFI horror stories. Tell about yourself.
I do. Thanks for having me, Matt. This is great. And the chats that we had, before we hopped on, I love it. I'm more and more excited as we get into it. So a little bit about me. I'm based here in New York City. And also now that I've worn the mask for a little bit for Halloween, I'm going to take it off. Also, no need to obscure my identity. New York City based, New York area raised. Originally got my start right out of college, which, by the way, I went to college for political science and legal studies, and now I do real estate development, design management, and construction management. So message to the kids out there, it doesn't matter what you graduate with on your bachelor's, you can always pivot. So fear not.
Yeah.
So once I graduated, just wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. I was studying for law school. Not enthused, nothing against, attorneys, but just kind of sense that it just wasn't really what I wanted to do with the rest of my life, or it just wasn't, you have to like what you do.
Yeah.
And I grew up just outside the city on Long Island, and my dad was a developer out there. And growing up, I kind of always just looked at, and he was a developer and also a GC, kind of vertically integrated. Small stuff, nothing major, mostly like homes, like high value homes, some multifamily work, some retail work, some out of ground work. So growing up, I looked at construction as like a summer job. It wasn't really, I didn't really look at it as a career, which is funny because I lived in a home with someone who made it a career, a very successful career.
Right.
But when you're growing up, you don't really think about it like that. So after college, but quick non sequitur, actually, right after college, a bunch of my friends were going to get their masters or already had full-time jobs lined up. And I was nervous. I didn't know what to do. So I did what any 22-year-old who wasn't sure what to do would do. And I moved to Alaska for 6 months.
Wow.
And I was a helicopter tour guide for the Mendenhall Glacier
Cool.
for about 6 months before. And it was great. Really into hiking at the time, still am. But back then it was like, if I didn't know what I wanted to do, may as well just go hike for 6 months and get paid for it. So
that's not a bad gig. Can't complain with that. We go off-roading and sometimes we get rewarded for doing trails for Onyx, right? It's a pretty cool app. So if you're off-roading, that's what we do. So it's nice to get paid for what you love doing.
It is. It's great. I'm fortunate to be in that position now. But when I came back from Alaska, I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And I just remember my dad, thick New York accent, comes home one day and he sees me at the kitchen table studying, and obviously not looking too happy with my LSAT practice scores and all that. And he walks in and he goes, "Dude, what are you doing? You're miserable. Come out with me on the job site tomorrow. See if you like it." And I'll never forget this. And I credit a lot of it to why I'm very roll up my sleeves with my own company. I get to the job site and, I guess wishful thinking or hopeful optimism. I step out of my car and I'm like, okay, great. Like, am I managing, like, see my dad and walk over? Am I managing a crew? Like, what's on my docket today? And he hands me a shovel and a broom and he goes, "You dig until you know what's going on here." And I was like, "I have a college degree. What do you mean, sir?" Like, hold on. This is beneath me. And again, Matt, to this day, I credit that with my attitude really in general. It cultivated my ability to, treat everyone, with equal respect. I've been on job sites where not everyone is treated with equal respect, and that's critical for me. Always hello, goodbye, thank you for your work. And it also helps with my construction management chops, because when you're actually in the trenches yourself doing it, to start, when you're running conduit for electrical and you're running copper and waste lines and digging holes and, setting forms for concrete foundations and drilling helical piles and I've done it all.
Yep.
Not all, but most I would say. You understand the timings of things, you understand the sequencing of things. I can walk onto a job site and without even speaking to the super, I can know what comes next, and I can make sure that that's scheduled and make sure that that's all in play. Um, which is kind of like my ace in the hole when it comes to what I do now with Meerkat.
Yeah.
Um, but without getting too ahead, um, worked with my dad for a couple of years. Then I decided that and he, most of his work was on Long Island, pretty much all of his work, and my sights were set a little higher. So I
Mhm.
started looking for jobs in the city.
Mhm.
Started working with a GC that focused on mostly hospitality based work. So restaurants, some retail like food and beverage concepts on the GC side, and some multifamily work, and then some out of ground work as well. So I was pretty well rounded those first couple of years in New York City,
Yeah.
and from there I went to a couple of the GCs. In total, almost 10 years working on the GC side, about 9.5, and I like to say that my last GC client was a Danish coffee brand called Joe and the Juice because
Mhm.
yeah, you may have heard of them. Um,
Yeah.
but they hired a company that I was working for to build a couple stores for them, and I was the lead PM, so I got to liaise with their team. And when we opened up the third store that we opened with them, they were like, "Hey, what's with all the change orders?" Um,
Mm.
and I was like, "Well, I hate giving change orders. It's not, I don't like it.
Yeah.
It's not, I'm not happy about it, but your plans weren't great. And so, we missed a couple details here and there. Um, if you're happy with the product, I'm happy with it. I'm not happy I have to give you these change orders, but you need someone on the inside who's going to be, reviewing these in greater detail. Maybe you have someone already and we need to supplement them or what have you."
Yeah.
And I could see the gears were turning, and they were like, "Well, how about you just come work for us?"
Mm.
And I was like,
Mhm.
hmm, hadn't considered that, but
Yep.
let's do it. New adventure. Why not?
Yep.
So joined up with them, and there was a great director of development when I came on. He left shortly after I came on, a matter of months, maybe 2 months, and then I got thrust into the head of development chair. Um, One of the first things that I did out the gate was basically review all of our unsigned leases and work letters and all of our documentation to make sure that what we were getting ourselves into wasn't going to cause, potential for heartache for years sometimes.
Mhm. Yep.
Um, you know as well as I do, if you don't have a gas line or you need it and you have to deal with the utilities, it can be a chore to say the least.
Exactly.
Um,
And timing, which we'll get into, on today's show.
yes, sir. Yes, sir. So once we kind of aligned and we beefed up our brand standards a little bit so we could actually move at speed. Um, when I came on, I think we had maybe 5 or 6 stores, and when I left, we had just over 40. So
Wow. Nice.
pretty quick. Yeah, all in a span of about 2.5 years. So we moved
How many
quick.
were you managing at that time?
What was
What
that?
kind of, how many were you managing at that time?
Like personnel.
Yeah.
So I had when I came on, it was just me, and
Just you.
then
And then, yeah. Okay.
yeah,
And then how many projects you were managing all those 40 kind of over that 24 months?
I was the direct point of contact, but the good thing is that once we developed a store in a market, so when I came on, I think we had one store in LA. By the time I left, I think we had 4 or 5, and I was able to rely on that market manager for boots on the ground intel. They weren't necessarily learned on construction, but
Mm-hmm.
I got to like even though it was challenging at the time, it actually allowed me to learn how to speak about complicated things when it comes to construction in
Mm-hmm.
more simple terms, which in turn actually allows me to be a really good owner's rep because my clients are not exactly construction experts and I don't expect them to be. But if I can explain how a screw hit a copper line and now we're spewing and we need to like hit the ball valve and all that, if I can condense that down and make it more simple, then makes my job easier. It makes it less complicated, which leads to less stress for everyone. So um, I actually again at the time I was like, man, I really wish I had somebody who who I could fly around the country who knew what I was talking about. But pressure makes diamonds. So
Exactly. And going back, like, just very inspired and intrigued, and kudos to your dad kind of taking a site and giving you that real life experience. And like you said it yourself, you gain your own perspective and appreciation, and which for your whole entire career and life is kind of taking on that role of realizing everyone's equal and that kind of stuff. And you've got it. And share a similar story of my own. Like, I grade 11, I
please.
just walked onto a construction site and said, "I want to work. I don't care. Let me just hit something. Let me hammer something. Let me
Yeah.
dig. Tell me, show me the ropes." And to this day, like, there's been lots of milestones in life and everything, but that's one of those, probably in those top tens. Where the site supervisor Sean gave me a chance and said, "Sure, you want to work for us? We'll pay $8." I'll do it
Yeah.
for free. And to this day, like, you get it, right?
Yeah.
When you're starting to draw and you're looking at details, your mind's eye just starts formulating, building that itself. And unfortunately, a lot of architects that are coming into this game, they've never even picked up a hammer. They've never loaded up a brad nailer, right? Right? They don't even know what the compressor does, right? All these things, like, from simple things, let alone the challenge that they face on site. Or the other thing is the detailing. Let's just bring this eave coming into this little thing. No problem. I can draw it in Revit. Yeah. How the heck are you going to actually build that on site?
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's so awesome. Always inspiring to hear others go through that similar kind of experience, and the way that your dad, that's top notch. That's awesome.
The old school guy.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, he's left us, but
Mhm.
I kind of, it's okay. I live my life in his image daily. Um,
Awesome.
uh, really special guy.
Very cool.
Um, but it's funny that you say that because I get that sense too, and I think that for a lot of owners reps and project management firms, I can understand why they do it. Um, but I really only hire people who are PMs as PMs who have actual construction experience,
Mhm.
because I think that there's a lot, even if you have a construction management degree, if you haven't spent an extended amount of time on site, if you haven't gone from a demoed space to a completed space and been on site every day in your steel toes and gotten dusty and actually sensed it and heard everything and felt it, moved pipe yourself, whatever.
Mhm.
um, it's hard to conceptualize the process
Yeah.
um, in real terms, and not in these lofty kind of like theoretical ideas of like, hey, this comes after this. Not for this one, man. And if you
Yeah.
were on site, you would know that we're gonna do our HVAC after the ACT or something like that for whatever reason. So um, there's all kinds of intricacies in this business, and I think that a lot of people lose lose the idea that there's intricacy because they want a one size fits all or like a universal application,
Mhm.
because SOPs are nice, they're comfortable,
Yeah.
but that's not always the case in our business, is
No, yeah, so many times, and that's the big thing. You draw and you spend hours detailing this building. Maybe it has a step foundation, whatever the case is, and then it gets to site and something goes wrong, and you're just like, "Oh, it was so detailed."
Of
We were
course.
we even walked you through some of these. You even asked RFIs about this, and
Yeah,
yet you still couldn't follow the simple instructions. But no, it's all good. Life changes, but it's, again, having that right attitude, being adaptable in site, and how can we work together to kind of get it back back on track.
exactly.
So
Yeah.
So, given being Halloween, all the RFI horror stories, the surprising submittals, changes, everything. We've got a variety of topics that we'll see where we get through today and everything. Because with your huge amount of experience, again, from being in the field to being, now to the owner's reps, I'm sure you've got a handful of stories that we can banter back and forth, and keeping names out of it, and do with discretion and professional. But again, for the listeners that do listen to this, they really appreciate the fact that, hey, call it a learning curve, right? How take it as a learning moment of your own of going, oh shoot, I've got a similar job that might be in the same process, or I'm actually in that same moment right now. How do I get out of this?
Yeah.
And I know the listeners that really appreciate this. So one of them, and again, we'll keep this very Halloweenish, but uncovering the demo works. I have.
Ooh,
Yeah,
spooky.
I'm sure you've kind of. Well, first off, have you ever uncovered through a renovation or a TI or anything like that, and you're demoing something? Have you seen anything like really crazy, like a message in a bottle or a skeleton?
Oh, man, I have. Um, yeah, I have. It's a little gross of a story, so I'm gonna tell you, and if we want to edit it because it's not fit for universal consumption, we'll do that. But I'll tell you.
We'll put an E
Um,
on the episode saying it's this is a little bit out there.
yeah, warning. Skeletal remains, um, but not a human. Um, we were doing a project, a big multifamily adaptive reuse renovation in Midtown East in Manhattan. Building was very old, very very old, and it was under maintained for decades, which I think
Right.
is why my client was able to pick it up for relatively cheap. And the plans looked great. The renders looked great.
Hmm.
Day one. I'm sorry. It's just so funny. Day one, we do our ribbon cutting.
Hmm.
We're in there. We have a sledgehammer up on a scaffold. We're ready to start taking down the ceiling. Matt, I kid you not. We take our first hit. It was like three guys with sledgehammers up going into the ceiling. Like, not even kidding. Hundreds of dead rat skeletons. This is so
Gee,
so so New York, right?
no, no kidding. Someone must be
Hundred.
recording this, right?
Oh my God! I wish we had the ribbon, like the big scissors and the
Yeah.
ribbon, and then the scaffold, and we were like, hey, one, two. Everybody's on a hard at three. They hit it. Rat skeletons falling, hitting people in the head. People start screaming. They're like, "Oh my God, what is that?"
Oh man. At least now we're moving too. Oh
Crazy,
my. Oh, that's wild. Yeah, typically not just one,
wild,
just so jeepers.
insane. Um, less gross, I guess you could say, but um, most of the demo that I've done in New York, especially in these older spaces, you always find some kind of weird like time capsule from days
Cool.
past.
Yeah.
Um, I remember I was taking apart a space to do a yoga studio,
Yep.
and in like the Upper East Side in Manhattan, and we took down some walls, and I think I found like the basically the remains of someone's lunch from like the 80s. So it
Oh,
was like a can of Tab. You remember Tab with like the did you guys have
okay.
that up in Canada? Yeah.
No, we had oh, what was the anyways, yeah.
Yeah,
Spam,
it's like a
that kind of stuff. And yeah.
exactly like discontinued material, like discontinued items and sodas and all that. And so
Yeah.
I don't know, it's like you're stepping back in time when you're taking this stuff apart sometimes. Um and I'm trying to think if there was anything else that was super funky. Oh, we did find, this is funny. We were taking apart we were doing some demo on a bed and breakfast on Nantucket to basically
Yeah.
like update it to be a boutique property. And we found a safe in the
Yeah.
basement under, like there was like a basement, and no one knew that there was like a sub basement until we actually started like redoing
Mm.
the floors. And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
we found the safe, and we were like, whoa, what's in this thing? And we like
Yeah.
called the
Yeah.
locksmith. The locksmith was booked out a week because it's an island, Nantucket. So we were like, everybody's staring at the safe for a week. We're like, what's in it? Like, what do you like? You think there's $1 million in it? What do you think is
No.
in it?
Memoirs. What is it? Stock bonds. What could this be? Love letters.
Like hundreds of dollars, and like
Yeah.
turns out so anticlimactic. Turns out that it's like a couple of like boxes of like empty like jewelry boxes from like necklaces and bracelets and stuff. And I was like, why would you lock this up?
No
Give us
kidding.
something. Give us something cool. Like, but it
Oh
was like
man.
it was like the talk of the site for like that. It was
Yeah.
just like, what do you think is in the safe, man? Like everybody's like outside having a cigarette. Just like, I bet it's somebody's birth certificate from the 1800s or something like that.
Yeah. Oh, that would have been fun. You guys, yeah, I should have had like a pool, and in the end, it sounds like nobody would have gone it, which is unfortunate. It wasn't as
Yeah.
crazy
Yeah.
as we could have been. When we were doing a renovation at my last house and everything, because we were subflooring it up, because it was carpet and we made it all level, and then we were going to put new flooring, and of course, I put the underlayment down. And before I put the underlayment down, I was like, you know what? Someone's going to rip up this floor one day, and I'm not going to be here. So I quickly like did the whole police, murder scene, lied down.
Yeah.
I got my kids to draw all around me, and then I put them down there, and then I said, "The Brennans are watching you." So the moment someone redoes that floor, that laminate floor in my old house, which I'm not there anymore, the moment they rip that up, they won't want to be there anymore. And it wasn't bad,
Yeah.
but even did in red and Sharpie, and again, it wasn't too creepy, but it'd set me off if I was in that moment. I'd be like, shit, I'm just ripping off the
Totally.
whole entire floor. Let's just reframe the house. I don't care.
Yeah.
So
Call the Ghostbusters.
exactly. Let's have a little bit of fun. But the fact of we're watching you, it's just like, yeah, I thought it was pretty brilliant. So
I
again,
love that, man. I love
yeah.
that.
So do that when you're doing your renos, do that whole time capsule thing if you can. I think that's kind of fun. We did it one school where we did put an actual time capsule and put a vault under there, and it was all the students for the year when the school was completed. They all got to put their stuff, and then they sealed it off and saying, "We'll open this in 20 years or something," and made a big plaque. And yeah, it was pretty cool. And it was a
cool.
neat idea. And I think doing that for more and more jobs, I think is kind of fun. Shows the history of where we've been and to here where it is, and predictions too. Did the predictions come true? And yeah, that's kind of a cool thing.
I'll just put I'll put an old iPhone in there so that when someone unearths it and they're like, what's this? And it's because we have our phones implanted in our heads at that point. So they're like, why would you need a device for that? Like I can call my dad right now. Like
Well, I don't know about you, but I'm getting I just turned 42, and I was working with a young group and everything before, and I was like, oh yeah, that was on the floppy disk or that was on a CD, and they're just kind of like dumbfounded. You're like, no, come on, you got to tell me what a CD is, like, or
you mean the save icon?
Yeah, exactly. What's that? Napster? What? That sounds like a cool drink. No. It was a big revolution where you had to download music. What do you mean download and pirate and burn CDs? How did you burn CDs? Oh goodness.
Oh, I get it, man. I get it.
Yeah, totally. But yeah, other than a pipe and everything like that, we've kind of looked when we're at venue schools. That was kind of our biggest surprises. One demo, and again at this last place for me from a horror story was I put in some insulating speakers and everything, and to get the lines over to the side wall, basically I had to drill through a joist and then fish it over, and then it went in behind the crown, and it was all nice and clean because it was a renovation, right? And I didn't want to tear off the whole ceiling. Well, the first hole I drilled through the joist, no problem, but trying to fish the line was just being really finicky. I wasn't getting anywhere, so I thought, oh, I'll drill another hole, but on an angle, second hole. Well, of course, my luck, and I, this is how I win the lottery, just in the sense of I managed to hit a 1/2 inch PEX pipe right dead on. Boom. Thankfully, I had the crawl space door open, ran down. The thing was out in 2 seconds, but I was like, Rick, now I got to really rip up the wall or the ceiling just to fix this. Oh, it's just like my luck kind of stuff. So those are
brutal.
Those are the demo side of it. But yeah, always good fun. Lead times. That's an ultimate true nightmare on its own in that sense. Were you, even like today, but like, have you ever been where you just couldn't complete a project because the lead time was so long?
Yes. Yeah. The first one that comes to mind is the one that I rallied against for weeks until the designers finally overruled me. I was a general contractor, and they were insistent to use a specific Calicut marble for all of the countertops.
Okay.
It was a 250 unit multifamily renovation, interior renovation.
Yeah.
So not a small amount of Calicut marble.
No.
And when we spoke to our Italian counterparts about lead time, they were like, I'm not even going to try an Italian accent because that would be the scariest thing on this podcast. So I'm not going to do it. Well, it's going to take.
Nice.
To my Italian friends, just know I love you. I'm just messing with
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
I think they said that it would be something like 4 weeks to, I don't know, just making it up, but like 4 to 6 weeks to produce, and then like 6 to 8 weeks at sea, and then 3 weeks to fabricate on site or something like that. Um, Turns out that when they gave that lead time, they
Mhm.
had assumed that they had enough in that quarry that they were
Right.
already in. So they got probably about 85% of what we needed out of the quarry. And then they said,
Oops.
there's nothing left.
Another
So
color.
then, yeah. So then they were like, you guys can wait 6 months for us to go through the, Italian magistrate to allow us to open up our next quarry, in this vein of marble, or we can give you a different color.
The
And
pink
on
color.
that, keep it a pink.
Lots of that to choose from.
Yeah, so yeah, no one uses pink anymore. That's scary.
Yeah, that is.
Um,
That's Dane. There's a scary topic.
yeah. So I'll never forget on one of the weekly calls, I'm like, guys, what engineered stone is produced here in this country. Can we just can we finish these off and then wait for it to come in and then just is there anything we can do? And the designer said, the designers turned to the project owners, the people invested in this have spent over $100 million on this renovation,
Mhm.
and they go, "Can you guys wait 6 months to open the project?" And we're like, "Do you really just not what? Think about this a 7-year-old would
Yeah.
have the logic behind maybe I shouldn't even request to wait for 6 months when we've been on this project for
Yeah.
3 years."
No kidding. It's like you bring the kid example. You just like stand out of the toy store. We can go in. Nope. Can we? Do you want to wait? 5 more hours or
Right, exactly. Like,
no?
clearly we're not doing that.
No.
So
So what did
we
you
end
find? Did you like? Of course, you didn't wait. We know that, but did you
no,
find
no,
an
we didn't.
alternate?
Yeah, well, the owner got so upset at that comment on that call, that they basically just said, "You guys are all good here. We appreciate what you've done for 85% of the units. We're going to figure the rest out ourselves." And they went to a local, stone vendor, and they found the best match. And they just, they took one set of professional photos, and to me, it looked effectively the same. I'm not a designer, and I respect what designers do,
Yeah.
but to me, it looked effectively the same. So
Yeah.
I remember at the end of it, when we sourced that, they were like, "This is like 25-30% lower than what we got from Italy," and I was like, I'm not going to say a word. I'm not going
No.
to say anything. I
No.
made my I made my case. I did not die on the hill, and
Yeah.
we moved on. But yes, lead times
They
challenging,
suck. Yeah.
challenging. We
Well,
also had most recently. Do you want one more,
no,
or
go, keep going. You're on a roll.
we also had more recently? We had a project we were doing where the elevator company told us it would be 12 months, and 6 months in, they said it would be another 18. And we were like, that can't happen. So
No.
what do we do? And it took, I think, 3 or 4 calls with them for them to finally realize that what we had or what they had included in their spec was actually not what we needed. And it was an
Mhm.
oversight by the general contractor to basically sign off on that spec,
Yeah.
when it wasn't even what we had requested in the first place. So, it took some really granular and nuanced, detailed review to understand that, we don't have to wait 18 months for something we don't even want. So all good. And then we
Okay.
got it. We got it a couple of months later, so it was fine.
It all worked out. Yeah.
So, but
Like
there's always a solution. Always a solution. Always.
they're
So
totally, yeah. And that's the thing is just again, how can one pivot, look at it, and then work with it? But one elevator horror story I had was we were doing brand new high rises, and the first thing is owner, what because it was a private developer, so we had a little bit of flexibility. It wasn't going like a open tender or something. We said, all right, what elevator group do you want to work with? Oh, we really like this group. Fantastic. I love them too. Done them on a lot of schools. Called
Mhm.
them up, said, "This is what we're doing. We've got an 18 and a 22-story high rise going in this location. What model do you recommend? How many? Where we're thinking two for sure. We're thinking a third. Yeah, these are it. Got the model, got the part. I said, great. Give me all the cut sheets. Drew up the core. Perfect. Sent it back. Had this coordination, and then we started drawing. Fast forward 3 years, once everything was all, or not even, I think just 2 years or whatever, but basically once we got all the permits and they were finally got their parkade and they're finally doing the tower, and we get the shop drawings. I'm like, this is not what we talked about. This is
Oh no.
this is different. So we had to make some radical changes. But again, just trying to be proactive. And it's like, please let us go back to what you gave me. It's all documented, but just the nightmare that brings, because now you're designing on the fly and you're like, what am I compromising because of that? And there's no options because we've changed the model or whatever. Oh, anyways. So
Oh, I know it. Yeah.
important kind of key, those almost shape the whole project. There's little the heart, sometimes shouldn't be, but it does, and it changes. And but yeah, just wrapping up the lead times. One thing was we had a few jobs that couldn't wrap up because they didn't get the distribution panels on time. Now,
Mm.
two though, they didn't listen to us, listen to myself when we're at the first site meeting saying, where's the panel shop drawings? Because I want to review this and give this back to you today, because I know this isn't a 3 month lead time. We're still having supply chain issues. This is going to be 8 to 12 months, and your project schedule is only 8 months. So we're not going to energize this. You're not going to get substantial. What do you want to do? Just get those shop drawings to us right now. Get that order in right away so we can avoid that. So yeah, lead times that suck. But what has been the most shocking change order that you've seen to date?
Ooh.
Yeah, lots of them.
this this one's a fun one. Um, doing did a project recently in which I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I guess it's a good one to talk about. So it's a cautionary tale into into making sure that you standardize your bid template for an RFP. um, we were doing a project, a restaurant, and for whatever reason, the owner didn't want to use a standardized template. Um, and the drawback with that is that you get different proposals that cover different things that are in different formats, and it's harder to ensure that you have a full and cohesive GC package um, when you're seeing, totally different formats. So we had my team is very circumspect and very careful when it comes to review. We had four GCs, all with different bid templates, all with different inclusions, exclusions. It was just messy to say the least. Um, not by our doing, more just because we approached it in a way that that was not the most effective way to start. And so we ended up going with a GC who was the lowest, which is not always the bad thing. I know everyone says like lowest GC, but like if you're properly vetted and they're hungry, it's fine.
Yeah.
Um, we start the project. We sign the contract. We start the project, and they go, "Okay, so who's gonna buy all the light fixtures and the tile?" And I was like, "You.
You.
What do you What do you mean who? It's you.
Yeah.
You want me to go and buy 60 hi-hats? Like
Yep.
that's not for me to do. That's not for the owner to do." And they were like, "Well, per our contract," and I cut them off right there. I was like, "Listen, we just signed this thing 6 hours ago. I still have an opportunity, probably legally, to nullify this. I need to know right now if you're including this or not, or if this is some kind of game." And they were like, I shook them a little bit. I think I
Yeah.
spooked them a little bit
Nice.
because like tone drop, and I was just like, "You are not messing with the right person here. Like, we are
Oh,
not going to allow this to happen this early in the project, especially. No. So go back to your bid sheet, put it on this bid format." I don't like overruling my client, but sometimes you need to like do things a certain way because you know that they're tried and true. And put it all into this, mark out your inclusions and your exclusions in this box, put it this way, and magically, woo, a $75,000 change order disappeared.
Oh,
So,
surprise, surprise. Gee.
crazy. Yeah.
But
Um,
good on you for saying the precedent, because that's always that game I find when, from the
totally.
architectural standpoint, that first change order. And when it's, when it's not even legit, it's kind of like, well, where you raise your eyebrow and go, what the heck is this? Or where is this coming from? That moment, that second that comes over, how you handle it, that sets the precedent where things become second nature to it just becomes oh well, of course we'll give a new change order and they'll prove it because they did it on this one and this one and this one. But if you
Yep.
stand your ground like you said and went, hold on, we're ready to cancel this thing, we'll start from scratch and get a new GC on this, that was, I agree, that was the right approach, because you set the precedent going forward that smarten up, do your job,
Bingo.
and
Yes.
let's work together in the start, let's make
Yeah.
something great here, but let's not get into this nonsense.
Totally. And I always like to say two things when it comes to change orders. One is that I was a GC. Like
Mm.
I know that game.
Yeah.
GCs that I've worked with have been amazing. Like all of them I would work with again, and they're still on my bid lists. But
Hmm.
I do know, just being on the inside, that part of the GC business is doing things like that. They could be the most genuine GC possible, but if there is an opportunity for them to increase their profit margin, rationally they will.
Yeah.
So it makes sense to me, but like you said, sets the precedent. Being on
Hmm.
the GC side, if you send that first change order and it's signed uncontested, it's open season.
Yeah,
It's
that's
like
right.
you can, I'm not going to say that, the client becomes a doormat, but it's more like, that if there are certain things that you would normally include for a client relationship that maybe you miss with your subcontractors, such as thin set when you're doing tile. If
Mhm.
you just, if your subcontractor didn't include it because they thought they had a flush substrate to begin with and they didn't need it, or flash patching, things like that, then you would know not to go to the client on that, and you would just eat it. You would eat the cost, and your 25% margin would become 24.8. But
Mhm.
if you know they're gonna go for it, flip it over to them with additional OH&P and general conditions. Why not? Because why not?
Yeah. Oh,
So
100%. You wanna make that extra money too, and I get it, but that's where having a good team on both fronts makes the difference.
yeah, and I say in my project interviews, for Meerkat, I'm like, listen, I was a GC. I know the dirty tricks. I know how that
Mm.
process works. So I'm able to poke holes in it and read between the lines and understand if it's legitimate or not.
Yeah.
And if I come to you, owner, and I tell you, hey, this is a legitimate change order, that that I've fully assessed it and that I've fully vetted it. I've reviewed it against the plans, their contract, their inclusions, their scheduled values, their exclusions, and it is a valid change order that was either a design miss, a field condition, whatever the case. If it was my miss, I'd tell them too. I'm like, hey, I missed this in the scope review.
Yeah.
You know, I'm sorry. But that's why we hold, 5 to 10% for change orders and field conditions, because, you know, I know everyone is so excited to work with a robot. But
Mhm. Yeah.
I think that even though mistakes happen, there's a beauty to working with humans, because if you have a good team, it's, it's exciting. Errors and all, warts and all. So
Yeah, no, absolutely. It just, again, that collaboration is key, 100%. And yeah, again, kind of as you're talking about, like one story, and I think I've shared it before, but was doing 6 daycares throughout the province, and so we issued, there was mechanical came to a fire damper change, and we had to add one location. So guess what? 6 proposed changes went out to all these different daycares, were all being built by different GCs, and some of the sub trades were on the same jobs. So when we got pricing, it was like, yep, good, good, good. This is odd. This one's
what's that
odd.
one?
And
Yeah,
it's like, this is way high. Oh no, that's fair market value. I'm like, well, do you want me to go get the other sub trade that's doing my other, school to do the same thing? But anyways, it's just, it don't, yeah, again, and it sets a precedent, because there is that moment where there's going to be a mistake on site where it's going to like, hey, can you scratch my back this time, and vice versa.
exactly.
And it's just, yeah, again, going back to the team atmosphere and that attitude, it does play really well, because yeah, we're human, things are going to happen, if it's fair and reasonable, absolutely, we'll
Yeah.
we'll pay for it, that kind of stuff, but don't, don't start nickel and diming over little stupid things here and there, because it's just going to come back and bite you when there's a big screw up, and we've got to accommodate that, on site.
Yeah. And look, it's you bring up a good point, and this is something that I do that I don't think all owners reps do is and I tell my clients that I do it. Like I think there's three categories for what I'm about to tell you, and one is they try to keep the budget as razor thin as possible at the beginning. Then you end up with a boatload of additional costs.
Mhm.
Um, then there's the second option, and the second methodology for GC budgeting is to, this is my preferred, is to tell them, hey, listen, things are going to come up. I think we need a contingency. I don't call it a contingency because sometimes they think contingency is free money. I
Mhm.
call it I call it, and because language is important,
Yeah.
I call it the piggy bank. So
Yeah.
we're only breaking that up in case of emergency. We're only breaking that if you missed it, I missed it, the sub missed it, the owner missed it. That's what that's for. That's not if you missed something or you bid something that's non-code compliant that you can break that, because you can't, and I'll catch you. So do not.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah,
um,
exactly.
but it's kind of like a debit account. It's like, hey, we need overtime so we can make our date this Saturday. I don't want to change order for that. I want you to take that from our piggy bank. And,
Mhm.
I don't want to increase the contract value for that. And if you use all of it, then you use all of it.
Right.
If you don't, oftentimes what I'll talk to my client about, I'll say like, hey, listen, we have another like $5,000 in piggy bank and the GC did a great job. Let's just let him keep it. It's a project bonus. It's like
Right.
ultimately, at the end of the day, especially if we're doing like a multi-location rollout, we want partners who are excited to work with us again.
Mhm.
It's so much less. I think a lot of people see it as like a unit thing.
Yeah.
And I'm building a company in which I like to treat people so equitably that they want to jump out of their seat when I call them to help me with something, because time is always the enemy in this
Yeah.
business. So
100%.
I need to have reliable people who I can call, even for like you said, like a market rate change order check.
Mhm.
Say, hey, do you have 5 minutes to review whether this is legit? That means everything to me.
Yeah.
And I do that by making sure everybody's paid on time, everybody's treated with respect. Hello, goodbye, thank you for your work. It's all important stuff.
Yeah. No, and absolutely, you're right. Again, the whole team attitude, it works better. And yeah, I've been on jobs on both where it's like, I don't want to work with this GC ever again, kind of stuff. But
Yeah.
but these ones, I can't wait to do the next job with them, because we were cracking the champagne at the end of the project because it was so exciting. It was thrilling. It was worth it. It wasn't that bitter moment and going, oh, we finished the job. Great job, team. And you have to give that, well
Yeah.
done speech. And it's like, I can't do this because it's not me. So this was all lies. This
100.
was no harmony at this point.
Totally, man.
But no, too funny. But have you seen a lot of projects die and get revived and come back to life?
I've seen projects, uh, yes and no. A lot of times when I'm working with most of my clients right now are either venture backed or like investor backed concepts that are looking to expand and expand quickly. So
Mhm.
a lot of times it's not that the projects will necessarily be live, but we'll be working on a potential location, call it 123 Main Street, for like a month, 2 months, 3 months.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, either the landlord tries to renegotiate at the end or the seller tries to renegotiate at the end. And we may have schematics, test fits, we might even be close to like design documentation and a permit set by the
Mhm.
time we get the call that says, and this doesn't happen often because I typically try to make sure that we don't get too over our skis before it gets too far ahead. Um, yeah, recently I've had a couple that, whether they're from renegotiation or from, a change in the underwriting, a change in the eventual, the end users operating expenses doesn't start to make sense with the rent and the common area maintenance charges and things like that, that they just die. And it's
Mhm.
the first couple times that it happened, it was like felt I mean, sad, of course, but because
Yep.
you put a lot of work into these things. But then it also, I don't know, not to get like esoteric and philosophical, but I think that not necessarily that everything happens for a reason, but I do think that if there is, it's not like any deal is perfect. There's no 100% yes, everyone's super happy with everything on this thing. But if there are deals that have, what I call like a lot of hair or like a lot of complication,
Mhm.
if you try to force it through, that doesn't go away. It just kind of gets swept under the rug, and then eventually it rears its ugly head, and then you get delayed for a couple of weeks, or you
Yeah.
have a field condition, or the landlord forces something on you that you don't want to be forced upon. And so at the first couple times, man, it just kind of felt really sad, and I was like, oh, I wish we got that one. Now
Mhm.
I'm just like, okay,
Yep.
wasn't going to work. Wasn't going to work
Yep.
to begin with. And whether that's like, a coping mechanism, whether it's real, you never know. But either way, it allows me to mourn for exactly 34 minutes,
Mhm.
and then I'm on to the next. So
Yeah.
it's more of just like a mental shift perspective, or a perspective shift.
Yeah.
Um, it's not often that I see them die and then get resurrected. As much as I try to warm up the defibrillators, a lot of times they
Yeah. Yeah.
go
Keep it
and they
moving.
go and they stay gone. Um, I had two deals recently that were put on. I think the term used was indefinite pause,
Mhm.
um, which is a euphemistic way of saying they've died. Um,
Yes.
but the good thing with them is that they're large enough, I think, that and they were far enough along on design and contemplation regarding business plan, and we had stakeholders involved, and all the contracts are cut now. But um, what was cool is that when we were able to ascertain that they were kind of put on life support, I
Mhm.
had the I had the idea to reach out to the sellers of the projects basically and say, hey, would you be open to me brokering this thing? Because that would allow my team to continue working. That would allow the designers, the architects, the general contractor, everybody that was the projects were mid-flight. We were cooking, and then we got the call: shovels down, pencils down, mouse and keyboards down.
Mhm.
Um, and they were like, "Yeah, if you find a buyer, you guys slot right in. We get our check, we walk, and you guys build the rest." And
Yeah.
so I am grateful to be an entrepreneur in many ways, but a lot of times in moments like that, I'm like, if I was just a director at a company, I wouldn't
Mhm.
necessarily have the liberty or the ability or contacts to
Yeah.
be able to do that. But I've been, kind of like selling those around a little bit, kind of like parading them around in conversations that I have at networking events and such. And there's some good interest. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm hoping that I can resurrect them because they're great projects, but
Yeah.
I'm not going to hold my breath.
No.
I'm moving forward, and if they come back, then I'll staff up, and if they don't, then I'll staff up anyway because I'm growing somewhere else. So
Right.
um,
Exactly. And you
only
keep
only
moving.
only
Yeah.
forward, only forward.
100%. Yeah, there was one specific city's district that really does kill a lot of projects because their review times are just completely not reasonable, not ethical. It's bad, and that's where we've seen jobs go in for a development permit, just to get that approval, just from the shape and form,
Hmm.
and that goes in there for 2 years, and they just, it's like, what's going on, and they just play the game. Oh, it's under review, it's under review. It goes to this council meeting, and just nothing relating to the project, but just very resent, and not just geared towards individuals, it's geared just towards the whole community. It's probably one of the reasons why we have a housing crisis at that moment, because these permits are just taking so long. So we've seen
Yeah.
owners just say, this is not worth it. I can't, this district is such a waste of my time. And they basically just sell it. And then you get some owner that does come back, who has time, that goes and they'll pick up and be like, hey, you did the concept drawings. Can we finish it? Sure. Sounds good. So we've seen that where those projects have died within the city, and then they've been revived and come back to life in that kind of sense. But yeah,
Hmm.
it's I'm trying to think of any other ones that I personally did. I did a couple homes, really high end homes, and then unfortunately they just said, yeah, we just don't have the budget now. And it's like, well, that's why we were talking about budget from day one. But hey, that's I'm glad you at least figured that out versus the thing half framed and realizing you had no money to finish it. Like, so positive,
Matt, let
negative.
me let me ask you a question. Um, what do you think? Talking about that district that you were just talking about, that it's like the
Mhm.
quagmire, the permit
Yeah.
quagmire.
Yeah.
Why? I guess two part question. Why do you think it's like that?
Okay.
And then what do you think can be done to solve it? Is it a federal government intervention issue into local politics? Is it an activism thing? Is it because we deal with that a little bit down here in New York?
Hmm.
There's something called a hotel special permit that's required in order to
Yep.
build any new lodging out of ground. Like you can do conversions, but I don't know if you've seen the price of a hotel room here, but it's astronomically high because the supply is so small
Right.
because we have a lot of tourists and people love coming
Yep.
here.
Exactly.
And it is a net it's a net negative to not have more supply coming into the city. And I don't say that just as someone in development. I say
Yep.
that as a New York City resident as well, that we
Hmm.
should have more hotel rooms, but for whatever reason that permit exists, and they give like two hotel special permits a year. Two.
Oh, geez. So they are really controlling
Two.
the amount of flow of hotels coming into that. Interesting.
Yeah. And I think the reason why is probably because they want to focus on multifamily development, but no one's
Yeah.
building multifamily because there's also so much red tape and hurdles and rat skeletons in the ceiling that it's incredibly challenging. So
Yeah.
back to, I had a question, but please answer the
Yeah.
question.
No.
Yeah.
So I think I'll answer your second question, kind of like the one thing, like we were doing a school, right? And we went for the permit process and everything, and it still took a long time at this particular district. And when we, like we kept calling them and calling them, hey, when are we going to get our first round of comments? Is there any comments? And we got our comments, and I looked through, and it was like 3, 4 pages. It was a big essay, and I was like, holy smokes, there's a lot to go through. So again, just copy and paste that into a Word document, and then just started formally responding to each little line item, and there was a couple of little points that picked up, but one thing I find with districts and kind of doing this for so long, it's like, why are you fussing about these particular details? This has nothing with you. What you guys should be focusing on is the site plan, the zoning, make sure that we have the right amount of, parking stalls based on your zoning bylaw. If there's bike stalls, those kind of things. Then the next plan you should be looking at is life safety. Does it,
Hmm.
is it matching what the building code is requiring and following that? And then if anything, sure, skip to the end of the package and look at the elevations, the pretty pictures, and just making sure that matches what was done at the development permit, maximum heights, again, all based on the bylaws. Like that's what they should be working on. But yet I find they get totally cut up in the weeds, and it's like they're focusing on this stuff, and it's like, well, first of all, you got a building permit set, so we'll call that our 60%. By
Hmm.
the way, we're so far ahead. We're like that detail you're looking at it's done. It's not this half baked detail or anything. And then the other thing, the only thing that should be looking at the floor plans is just from the accessibility requirements. So it's
Right.
really kind of buildings bylaws, what they should be checking the site, and then basically checking accessibility and travel distance and the fire life safety. So it's like 4 plans they should just be looking at in depth, but they get so caught up in the weeds and everything else. And going back to this one school project, I had this individual plan checker that unfortunately had to go above her head. We didn't want to do that. That was kind of the final straw, but we had enough. As she was trying to say what the structural engineer noted for his calculations are incorrect. Hold on, excuse me? Are you signing off on these drawings? Did you be part of this? This is none of your business. He's
Oh
the one that
man,
gave you his schedules. He's got the liability on this, and yet you're telling him to change the note? That's not happening. End of
that's
story.
wild. That's
Exactly. That's kind of the stuff where they all want to be their things. Or again, when it comes to like development permit, well, this is a real gray area because we can have the whole idea what the building should like based on my taste and your taste and vice
mhm.
versa. What is it? How is this helping the community? Yes, I don't want to see a square box up. I like having good architecture in those cities and anywhere for that matter, even if it's just a residential home. I like seeing good creative architecture versus a single
Sure,
simple
of
box.
course. Yeah.
But to be so critical about how we're doing things and go through that process, is that really the best effort of your time? Is that really your business? Are you even allowed to comment on that type of design loading or something or challenging the code? And those are the things I find that cities get so buried in. And it doesn't make sense, right? It's like a number of years ago, I had to go renew my driver's license. It was a 5 minute task in total, but I was there for 2 hours because I had to go see this person, then this person, and this person. It's the same thing with drawings.
Yeah.
They do this whole thing. there should be almost be like a manager in some of these cities that are just, they're the pushers, right? They're basically saying, okay, you got this day, I'm going to see you tomorrow to grab it, and I'm going to deliver it to Henry and engineering, and while he's doing it, I've got the building. Like, these are seriously, like, to go through some of these reviews, it should just take, it should take a week, and if you
Yeah.
do it efficient, and hey, you would know even your queues, like a modular plan. We know when it's going to enter the queue, and we know when it's going to be done, because once it's there, and you could even have this all online saying, yeah, yeah, oh, it's entering the queue. Just like if you bought a car off a Ford or something, you could see, hey, oh, it's in production. Great. Now we've locked down the estimate
Yep.
date, time it's going to be delivered and done. And I think if we, going back to the systematic side of things in the city halls and what they're doing, that's the problem, is they're not, they're running everywhere. And the particular one that I opened up with, yes, the government did get involved because they're hearing all these horror stories from all these people appealing and saying, we're trying to solve the price, the housing crisis, we're trying to build stuff, but this district is just roadblocking us from the start. The government hired a whole new staff to come in and help, but not help with the reviews, to help the individuals doing the reviews. And it was just like, what are you doing? And it did nothing. So
The
we could have a whole
bureaucracy.
yeah, bureaucracy. I'm sure we could have a whole political podcast on that episode, just on that. But the answer to the question is short. I think it's the processes that are currently in place, and nobody really knows, and no one's interested, and they want to run at this nice slow pace, and they're looking at stuff that really doesn't apply to them necessarily. Focus on what that
Yeah.
you're governing to do.
I couldn't agree more. And I think it's funny because I always like to joke that there was a whole industry that came about because government is so inefficient and it's expediting. I don't know if you have that up in BC, but in New York, there are people who are paid handsome amounts of money to know the ins and outs of the government because it's so overly complicated
Right.
that you basically pay someone for access to the borough commissioner of Manhattan when you don't get a plan. Like I just had to do it last week.
Yeah.
I had a plan set that was in for a post approval amendment to renew a permit because we're still developing financing for it, and it wasn't looked at for 6 weeks. So I had to call in a favor and spend X amount of dollars for them to pick up the phone and call the borough commissioner to ask them to ask the person to review and stamp approve our plans.
Mm-hmm.
Why?
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah, shouldn't be. And yeah, again, the whole babysitting clause, like, I don't want to babysit you. I shouldn't have these automatic reminders in my calendar. You shouldn't
No.
be surprising me. Oh, I got a permit. That's awesome. Great. Let's keep going. Or I got your comments. Great. But I had
Yeah.
I had one district, after calling them several times, and again, this is, development permit stage for, and this was just this was crazy. It was like a $20 million home or something at the time.
Mhm.
They actually lost the drawings, and I'm like, when did you lose the drawings? Was this last time I spoke to you and followed up, or was it? No, no, it was about a few months ago. Oh my goodness. I would have sent you brand new drawings like that. I would have put them printed and curled them over to you in a heartbeat. Why couldn't you just tell me? But
That's a horror story right there. Recently, I
yeah.
did a project in a small township in a state that's not New York that I hadn't worked in before. I've worked in many major metropolitan areas, but small townships, there's all these funky rules and they have their way of doing things, and there's no harm or there's no use in fighting. So
Yeah.
uh, we got our plan set. Like I developed a Gantt chart. Like we were good to go.
Mhm.
Like we were ready to submit. And I called the building department. And I'm like, hey, what email address should I send digital copies of our permit set to? And they were just like, no, we actually have to receive full hard copies of everything.
Yep.
And I
Let's
was
kill the
like,
trees. Yeah.
you want what? Like, it's 2025. You
Mhm.
want full paper hard copies of everything? And I like what? Like it was shocking. Like I couldn't
Yeah.
actually comprehend it because even since like 2013, 2014, it's been digital submission via PDF
Yep.
in basically every major metropolitan area that I've worked in. I've dealt with the paper thing every once in a while, but in like rural areas, like I'm talking like middle of nowhere. This is
Yeah.
like an hour and a half drive outside of New York City. Like it's not, it's a small town, but it's not like it's boondocks.
Right.
And
Yeah.
yeah, it was crazy to me. I had to hop in the car that day and drive them, or else we were going to be off schedule. And I show up, and it looks like the manuscript draft library of like the
Yeah.
Declaration
Yeah.
of Independence, and I'm like,
Yeah.
this is not organized. how are
No.
you? If I'm going to give you these plans. I was joking around with the clerk. I was like, I'm going to give you these plans. How can you guarantee you're not going to lose them? And she's like, we use
Yeah.
a purple post-it note for it. And I was like,
Oh, purple.
oh, of course that's your system. Purple post-it notes.
Right. Well, not I totally. If it was pink, that's different, right? But purple, different story.
Purple. We're going to keep track of.
Oh, we similar story. We had a district, same thing. They wanted all these brand new sets, and we're like, "Do you know the cost of this? We will go to Best Buy and we'll order something off online off Amazon. We'll buy you a 42-inch monitor and we'll give you the digital files, because it's cheaper for us to do that
Yeah.
than to print these dumb drawings that are going to be totally different the next time that you want a revision or you've got comments because we're so fast tracking these anyway. So too funny. But wrapping up this day of horror stories has been great. If you kind of had to wrap it up in a sentence or two, what would be some good advice to kind of pass along to the generation that or whoever is listening to the show right now?
Yeah. I mean, I know it's oft mentioned advice and, but it rings true is that over communicate, over communicate. Entering into a entering into a project where if you're building a restaurant where the kitchen designer has not met the architect until you're already underway on plans is a major mistake. Entering into a project where the millwork, the case for the woodwork resource has not met the architect and the architect has to include their designs in the plans, major mistake. Even though people might feel like it's a waste of time, and I've dealt with people like this, and that's fine. People might think that it's a waste of time to have, an all hands meeting once every 2 weeks and then do smaller project meeting with like the core team once a week. People might think it's a waste of time, but you'd be surprised how many things come up on those calls that are like, oh, I wasn't thinking about that. If I had I wasn't thinking about that timer or counter on my desk, it would be in the hundreds.
Yeah.
And that's how you run a successful project. It's not just because we work in digital environments and we have plans and we have tools to overlay architecturals with mechanicals with electrical doesn't mean that things aren't going to happen because we're building in the physical environment, the built space, the built environment. So over communicate. Don't be afraid to send emails on things as small as, hey, is this drain going to be a 2-inch drain or a 3-inch drain? Because I need to make sure that my coffee guy has enough room in his flex line. Small emails like that are it's not just to like, cover your butt. It's to make sure that there is widespread communication over simple issues that could become complicated. So
Mm-hmm.
save yourself the horror stories and
Yeah.
over communicate a little more.
No, and I totally agree. Communication 101. That's a podcast on its own that we probably should do too. Cause yeah, it's
Sure
so
is.
true. Pick up the phone. And I know from the architect standpoint, sometimes they don't have that hours to allocate it to it. But again, that if you don't pick up that phone, that's going to be a 5-minute call. Well, what result of you not doing that could turn into hours of rework and
Dude.
a
Yeah.
dissatisfied client. So 100%.
It's hours of rework, and even worse, the cash register rings later than anticipated, and that's a
Yeah.
big problem because it's not just dollars; it's time. And you have dead rent, and you have people, and you have marketing plans that go awry, and you have training, and you hire staff, and
Yeah.
yeah, it's tough.
Nailed it. So
Matt, this
wrap
was great.
This was, and thank you so much for being part of this, Zach, on this very Halloween special show too. But
That's right.
where can the audience? Nice. Where can the audience find you?
Meerkatcompanies.com is our main website. That has pretty much all of our service offerings, active work, completed work, and ways to contact us. Connect with me on LinkedIn, just Zach Rapaport. Follow us, our LinkedIn page, Meerkat Companies. And then we are starting to build our Instagram following a little bit. That is also Meerkat Companies as well. So we're pretty well aligned on the online presence actually, which is nice.
Very cool. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Thank you again. This was a blast. And again, through not going to say mistakes, but just through these stories and challenges that we've all faced, I hope, again, viewers, listeners that are, pick it up and go, hey, I'm in that same scenario, and that they can, hopefully not, basically just keep evolving and progressing in the right way. And that's where it's all
Yeah.
about. But this was
One
awesome.
one last thing that I'll say too, and I know we want to close out, but one last thing that I'll say too is that even though mistakes do happen and they can be really stressful at the time, um, take it from me who's done 65 plus projects. You survive, the project eventually finishes. It is a little stressful, but there's always a way out. So when you have that mindset and you're calmer, you're able to problem solve more efficiently. So don't let the panic get to you. Stay calm, and you will figure it out, even though there are problems throughout. That's advice no one ever gave me, but it's advice that I give to people when things happen, because things happen. We're humans, and it's construction, and it's complicated. So keep a level head, and you'll figure it out.
I think that's just advice just for day-to-day life. End of
It
story.
is.
Yeah.
It is.
That's awesome. Well, on that beautiful note, let's close this up. So architects, keep designing. Contractors, keep making those blueprints reality. We'll see you on the next one.